Hey, good evening, everyone. I see the CERN puns already happening in the chat, and I am enjoying them. So, almost 1 week in from CERN, we're all still here, right? Okay, I should make jokes. But thank you to everyone who's watching live and everyone who's watching the replay. I am looking forward to chatting with you guys tonight. And I do have some questions to throw out to you after nearly a week of CERN. So let's see who's in the chat. So My Online Ghost, Bit Finesse, Godfather J6, Mango Junkie 369. Nice to see you guys. Thank you again for returning and the fact that I haven't scared you off yet. In Mango Junkie, I was so bummed that I missed you in the stream earlier because I went back and I checked it and I saw you in there. And I'm like, oh, one of these days we'll be in the same stream. Insidious Tomaz, you know what? That YouTube you sent me gave me a lot to think about. We're going to talk about that tonight. So, and thank you to everybody who sent things and who's messaged and tweeted at me. I'm sorry I haven't gotten back to anyone yet, but thank you guys so much. It makes me so happy to hear what you all think of the streams and that you're enjoying them. Truly. So I hope I don't look ungrateful. It just takes me a little time to get back to it. But Hex Cowboy, nice to see you here tonight. So I hope everyone's having a good evening. I'm trying to fix this. And this mirror image that happens, it's like a flip, always throws me off. Kind of like when you're in Zoom and it's flipped. So I'm going to put up some of these CERN puns. I'm really enjoying them. Nothing to be concerned about so far. Right? Except you must discern before you earn. Oh gosh, I have some friends that are like really into puns. They would be loving this right now. Oh, you've been catching the replays. And you know what? Thank you so much for catching the replays. I am like, so thankful for everyone who's here live and for everyone who's watching the replays. It truly does mean a lot to me. So thank you so much. And like I said, I appreciate that I haven't scared anybody off yet. Thank you. I really, like I always say, I appreciate that, at its core, this started as a hex channel, as a crypto channel, and it's kind of branched into other things. And one of the things that I really enjoy and like that so many of us who are into hex, that are into pulse chain, have a lot of the same interests. So it's been really great to be able to bounce this off of you guys and just talk about this with you all, because like you said, a lot of people just like don't get it. People need to hear it, but you know what? Say it. A lot of people are shut off to it, even if you tell them. But you never know, put it out there and hopefully it plants some seeds, right? Crypto Vince and Wendy's have pun wars on Twitter. It's hilarious. I have not seen these pun wars, but I'm going to check them out. I got to make sure I'm following both of them. I feel like I am, but I'll see when I get back on Twitter. So CERN, okay. July 5th, and we are in July 9th. So not quite a week, but it's been a few days in there. And I think the first day of CERN, they had already discovered some new subatomic, exotic, as they call them, exotic subatomic particles detected, I think the first day. They found a new kind of pentaquark and the first ever tetraquark. So they like really went all in, and things are already happening for them because because they're using unprecedented levels and unprecedented power. I guess they were able to discover things right away. But on the other side of it, a little concerned that we have never had experiments like this at this power before. And we've had a lot happen this week, and you kind of wonder if this is connected or not. I don't know. I've been thinking about that a lot, but yeah, so new kinds of pentaquarks and the first ever tetraquark. And if you don't know what a quark is, so subatomic particles inside an atom, we know of the three of them. We have protons, we have neutrons, and electrons. Protons being the positively charged one, electrons being negatively charged, and neutrons being neutral. And for a long time, they thought that that was the smallest, piece of matter ever to exist. And then they realized that quarks are a thing, and quarks actually are the parts of matter that make up all the subatomic particles, that make up protons, electrons, and neutrons. And so now they've realized that there's these new kinds of quarks, and so when you put multiple quarks together, it makes a proton, it makes a neutron, it makes an electron. So I'm like sitting here wondering, well, when you put it together and you make a pentaquark, so five quarks together, right? I think penta, and then tetra. Forget how many tetra is. So, like, what is that when you have so many together? Do they even know what that is? Which makes me wonder, like, okay, so if they discovered it, they're probably making more of it, and do they even know what those things will do, or is this just a cover up for more sinister things that are going on? Like they're like, here, everybody, here's the scientific discoveries we've made. Yay, look what we're doing. And that's just like the surface thing, kind of like a front, right? Kind of like different crime things that happen, they have a front, oh, look, that bakery is a front. So is the scientific research actually a front for something more sinister going on? I think it is. So we'll talk about that tonight. Do I have a scientific background? I do. My undergrad, I studied biology. And then for my master's, I studied science education. So my background is only in life science. I wasn't the best student in physical science like this, but I'm learning as I go, and it's been interesting. Like I remember, some of this is kind of familiar to me, but some of there's a lot of new stuff I'm learning when I'm studying CERN. So I mean, it's cool because I think when you're naturally curious in life, um, it it really helps to like expand your mind, because like I've been out of school for years, but here I am learning physics. So it's pretty fun to be, to kind of find opportunities to learn this stuff and teach it to yourself. I just unfortunately, I feel like so much of that natural curiosity is squashed nowadays in children through our education system. I'm not fond of it, but yeah. Yeah, so my background is, in life sciences, in biology, and I used to teach it. So that's where my master's comes into play, but thank you for asking. Um, so yeah, so a lot of this stuff is new to me, so I'm trying to kind of be able to convey it well. So I hopefully it's working. Hopefully I'm not making things more confusing. Um, but yeah, like, I just I wonder about CERN being a front. And the thing with CERN is we talked about last week the dangers that are involved in CERN. There's people believe that it definitely has the potential to make black holes. It has the potential to destroy the universe. It has the potential to destroy the earth, because they're trying to simulate the big bang, the energies that were present at the big bang, on some very small scales, by crashing protons and electrons together. And they've made some interesting scientific discoveries through it. They discovered the Higgs boson particle, which some people believe that you would either never discover it or maybe it doesn't exist, which was, I believe it was present at the Big Bang, and it kind of triggered the Big Bang into happening. So, when you're trying to simulate that and you're doing it at such high energies and you're creating Higgs boson particles, it made a lot of scientists take a step back and go, you know what, this isn't safe. Like Stephen Hawking, everybody like pretty much respects him. He was like, the big modern guy in physics in our time. And Stephen Hawking was like, no, this is not a good idea, because he's like, at high energies, and high energies are what we're doing right now. This is run 3 that's happening right now. Highest energy they've ever used. He's like, at high energies, with the stability of the Higgs boson particle, you can cause like a major disaster. Something really bad could happen. You can destroy the earth. Or you can destroy the universe. So he was warning people. And at a certain point, there were scientists and all different people around the world, before they started the run of the Large Hadron Collider at CERN, who had actually brought lawsuits against CERN. So back, I can't remember, was it 2013 when the first run of CERN happened? There were a lot of lawsuits that were taken out against CERN, because people are like, you know what? We don't consent to this. We don't consent to the fact that you might possibly destroy the planet and the universe we live in. What are you doing? And they actually brought lawsuits against it. And I think with the lawsuits, I don't understand certain aspects of suing an institution like this. But from what I had heard was, these lawsuits kind of revealed that CERN was like this sovereign entity somehow, and they were, which I guess made them immune somehow to these lawsuits. Like they weren't, they had no effect. You know, it was like Teflon on them. So CERN still went forward. They did run one, which I believe is where they discovered the Higgs boson particle. They did run two, and they did run three. And run three is going to last 3 or 4 years. And once they turn it off, then it's going to go offline for 3 years so that they can make it even more powerful and then turn it on for run four, which is going to be another record breaking energy levels. So suppose Big Bang, just a theory. Yeah, nobody knows I mean, how exactly the universe was created. And I know sometimes, people of certain faiths, don't believe in the Big Bang because they're afraid that, not afraid, but they feel like it kind of goes up against their beliefs with creation. To me, I believe that they have the possibility to go hand in hand. How did God make the universe? Well, maybe he made it through the Big Bang. So people, I guess, want to discover if that was real, if that was really through the, how the universe happened. And I'm all for discoveries and natural curiosity, but past the point, I'm like, does it really matter how the universe is created? But I guess scientists are into that. Yeah, Stephen Hawking wasn't all that. You know what? I feel the same way. He kind of, I got this vibe from him. He always seemed kind of arrogant. There's a few of them I don't like. Like all these scientists that people are like really big into, just, I don't know, rub me the wrong way. Stephen Hawking's one of them. I do not like Bill Nye. I think he's really arrogant, but he's not really a scientist. He's an engineer. Which I know is a whole other debate, scientists versus engineers. Who was the other one? Oh, and Neil deGrasse Tyson. I don't understand, like, why the cult of them, why people are so into them. So Stephen Hawking was wrong about black holes, then called the leakage Hawking radiation. He definitely didn't sit life out, but he wasn't right. People don't realize how often the greatest minds can be wrong. It's true, especially in science. Isn't science always kind of made to be constantly tested and disproven and disproven? I said disproven. Science is made to be questioned and changed, and you update it according to like the different things that you discover. That's part of science. Yeah. So people acting like these scientists are the end all be all. They're not. They're human. They have the ability to be wrong. And even so, like I said, even though I'm not a big fan of Stephen Hawking, I still think, if Stephen Hawking is warning you about the dangers or something, I think they should have sat back and, taken note of it. I mean, there were certain scientists, I'm getting tongue-tied, certain CERN scientists that even they admitted that CERN has a very small possibility of destroying Earth, which is kind of like concerning. So it's like, okay, because somebody had written this in a comment to an article saying, if it has the ability, even the small potential to destroy Earth, why don't you have everyone on Earth consenting? Because it affects all of us. Why aren't we all consenting to it? That's probably because there's something more sinister at play. So they don't really care what we think. They were the last person. They don't care about the regular people. And this makes life more interesting because we can all imagine, live in the mystery. I mean, it's all mystery, and and I think that's what makes science so fun. The fact that it hasn't all been discovered, and there's the potential to just figure things out and learn and be somebody who can discover something. It's cool. So I like that. Live in the mystery. I think the elites are afraid that CERN will either discover something or unprove something. Interesting. Oh, I see Bill Nye debate going on. So I want to sit on that a second. I think the elites are afraid that CERN will either discover something or unprove something. And what's interesting is I feel like from everything we've seen about CERN, and that it's so related to the occult and everything, that the elites are part of CERN, because CERN seems to have some sort of immunity to these lawsuits, and they actually sit in the UN as a UN observer, which, if you're sitting in on the UN assemblies, councils, whatever they call them, you usually have to be a country. So the fact that CERN was granted observer status, so they're allowed to participate, but just in a limited capacity, is weird. I feel like the elite are tied to it. And like, like you're saying here, they're afraid it'll either discover something or unprove something, which I think the elites are working with CERN to discover something, to prove things and to bring things about. But if it does, unprove something or prove something, they'll never tell us because they're just going to use the front. Oh, look, we discovered these particles. Aren't you guys all happy with our research? They'll never tell us what they're doing there or what the purpose is or what comes out of this research. It's pretty dark. Of course, Bill Nye isn't a real scientist. He's a literal actor, but he does have a degree in engineering. But he likes to present himself as a scientist because I understand if you're playing somebody on a TV show, even if it's a nonfiction TV show, but he likes to like go around and speak as an expert on things, and it's like, what gave you that right? Not that right, but what gives you that credibility? I don't know. Hey, Warped Impulse, nice to see you here tonight. Thank you for coming. Bill Nye's nothing without Beekman's World. Thank you. Because I can't stand Bill Nye. And I've always said, was not a Bill Nye fan. I was a Beekman's World fan. I love Beekman's World. And I think it's available on Netflix. And when I used to teach, I used to show Bill Nye sometimes because it would get the kids' attention, but I did not enjoy it. I'm like, I wish I could show Beekman's World, and I don't think I did, but yeah, thank you for bringing Beekman's World up. I was thinking about it not too long ago. So whenever you hear Bill Nye, you automatically think of where in the world is Carmen Sandiego, kind of on the same level, right? Fake, right? Carmen Sandiego is a good show. I did enjoy that. Shields Grass Tyson. That's a good one. I don't understand, the cult that surrounds these scientists. It's interesting because it's like the elevation of science to religion too. And I guess these are their priests. There's a really interesting documentary. Somebody pointed me to. It's in my hold on. It's my Twitter inbox. Speaking of science as a religion, Robbie Davidson's documentary. It's free on YouTube. I have not seen it yet, but it seems like very much up my alley. It's called Scientism Exposed. And I'm under the impression that it kind of, speaks about that. The idea that science has become this cult and this religion. And I'm not bashing science. I studied it. I love it. I'm fascinated by it. I love it ever since I'm a kid. I have science books on my bookshelf. I'm into it. I don't think science is evil, but kind of like the cult-like thing where, like I said, science is made to be questioned. It's made to be, you do experiments to prove things. You do experiments to disprove things. But lately, it's become like this cult that if you have evidence that disproves something, nobody wants to hear it. Like no, that's not what science is. But it's now become this cult or religion where you cannot question it, you can't change things, and it's really warped. So I'm really excited to watch that documentary, and hopefully we can talk about it here after I watch that. I think those popular mainstream scientists are propped up and chosen just like politicians. You're right. Yeah, I think so. It's the same. Well, I think most people like who are in the public eye, who are in the spotlight. Yeah, there's other people here and there, but think about A-list actors. I feel like it's the same thing. They were chosen for a reason, and because they could carry out certain things. I don't even know where to start with that. Some people think they're programmed. That's a conspiracy theory. I don't think so. But I'm with you on this. It's the same thing. They're putting them in front of us to be a mouthpiece to carry out their plans, to kind of program us for the plans, to get us used to certain things and desensitized to certain ideas, or to put certain unproven ideas into our heads to make us fearful, to make us go along with the WEF's Great Reset type plans. But yes, I agree. Mostly to mock and disprove God. Yeah, it's interesting because I don't understand the idea that science and religion don't go together, because to me they do. When I was studying it, it was so amazing to me because everything came back to God for me, because I'm like, wow, his creation is amazing and everything is so perfect and it's so divinely designed, it felt like everything, especially in life science. And then, you get these attitudes from other scientists, and I'm like, no, it goes together. But even if you don't believe it, why do why are these people mocking it? My mom always puts it this way. She goes, listen, if you don't believe in the tooth fairy, but someone else does, why do you have to be obsessed with tearing that down? It doesn't hurt you. Let them do that. And I find that strangeness out of science. Like, if you don't agree with somebody's beliefs, just let them be. Roll with it. Nobody's gonna hurt anybody. So yeah, so that's why I think Scientism Exposed is going to be an interesting doc that I'm going to be really into. So, Hexander, thank you for coming in tonight. Nice to see you. And exactly, that's what science is, to question. Because how else do you discover things? You ask questions. You have a curiosity about the outside world, a natural curiosity. And it's interesting when you start making the connections. Well, they kind of rip the natural curiosity out of kids through testing and through the way they teach kids and this and that and all these different things. You toxic hedgehog. Nice to see you, Toxic the Hedgehog. Now I know who that is. But I lost a train of thought. Yeah, okay. So they take the natural curiosity out of kids. So now nobody questions anything. So how is science ever going to advance in the future if you have a whole generation of people without curiosity who don't question everything, who take science, in this as this religious dogma type thing where you can't question it, you have to, go with it. Nobody's questioning science anymore. The questioning leads to advances. So we are going to end up just stuck, not advancing because nobody can question it anymore. Nobody can test things anymore. We're going to a really strange place science-wise. So there's more biologists, scientists thinking there was actually creator, not evolution, because the intricacy of life on the microscopic level, which is so cool. Because my dad would always tell me that growing up before I really started studying science, and I thought that was cool. But then I got it. Like, for me, it clicked. I'm like, wow, it's insane. It's so perfect. So like I said, I don't see the it goes hand in hand. It goes parallel. I don't see the attack on each other, why everybody's always out to get each other and try to disprove. But yeah, I'll have to put that up there because it cracked me up. Hi, TB Bishop. Thank you for coming back. Do you hear a dog? No, I don't think the dog was barking in here, but there was a bunch of noise coming from outside. So that might have been what you heard. Unless he barked and I'm just so immune to it, I didn't even notice. But I do have a little dog on my bed right now, a little Maltese sitting on the bed. Yeah, totally. Like, and even the time scales they try to give us for for things coming together randomly, it feels like it would take longer if it truly was random. So things just, yeah. But I won't get into that debate because I know this will turn into a big debate for other people who aren't on the same page. Okay. The goal is 1.618 pretty much proves nothing in nature is random. The golden ratio. There you go. Yeah, there's so much in nature. It's okay. I'm trying to figure out where to go with this. That won't take this stream into a whole other direction than I was planning to go. But you know what? I will leave it at that. But maybe like after I watch that Scientism doc, maybe we'll do a whole stream on it. So, alrighty. And so back to CERN. So CERN. Okay, I'm going to check my notes. Let's see if I can actually read it because I had so much I wanted to talk about regarding CERN. But also, like, you look at CERN, and it's a multinational effort, and all this money is getting pumped into CERN, and you wonder, like, yes, okay, cool. Like we said, in science, you want to question things, you want to discover things. It leads to the progression of science. I'm sure they can discover some amazing things that could really like change things. But why is the money going? Why is there so much focus in such? Why are they concentrating their focus, their energy, their money all specifically on CERN? We have so many scientific things in the world that are underfunded. Like, look at space travel. And yes, I believe space is real. Um, but space travel, like, it's so fascinating. There's so much we can learn from it. Why aren't they dumping more money into that technology? Why aren't they really like we were able to go to the moon in the 60s with like less than 100 megabytes of computer power in 1969. Like we should be have with our tech now, we should be able to have done and gone way farther. But yet there's not like yeah, they want to act interested, but they're not, the powers that be, they're not dumping a ton of money into that. Instead, it's going to this. So that like makes me suspicious. Like, okay, what's going on here? Like, it's got to be more than just particle physics. Are they developing a weapon? Because we talked about last week, antimatter could is that has some huge destructive power. Just a tiny bit of antimatter, if it collided with a piece of matter, creates massive amounts of energy. If it happened in New York City, it would destroy a huge chunk of New York and it would destroy Connecticut. So you look at it and you're like, okay, well, are they really just studying for the sake of studying, or are they trying to make antimatter? Because they do have antimatter there. And are they trying to build a weapon with it? And yes, you could say, like, okay, no, they're trying to make antimatter propulsion so we can discover space. And that's why they haven't funded space and they're funneling their money to that. But imagine if a country develops an antimatter weapon, like they could tell the whole world what to do, because that would be so freaking scary and so destructive. And concealable. Like you could probably smuggle that very easily and you wouldn't be able to detect that. So you look at CERN, you're like, what's going on under the surface? If you look at it as a front, okay, is it weapons development or is it something more? I think it has the potential to be weapons development. I don't come from the school of thought that thinks that the universe or the earth will be destroyed from it. I think, yeah, it's a possibility. Maybe it can make a black hole. Maybe it can do all that. I think it's a possibility, but I don't think that's going to come out of CERN. I think something completely different is going to come out of CERN. I think it's something spiritual, and I think it's also weapons development. And we'll get into the spiritual aspect of that in a second, because it kind of relates to the whole fifth dimension thing where they're looking for the fifth dimension. But let me check the chat. See, the chat is hopping. Okay, so you're talking about the golden ratio and the Fibonacci sequence, whether they're related. I can't remember if they're related yet. Not sorry, if they're related at all. Sorry, I can't like I'm so bad at like talking and reading at the same time. Like in the Gen Hex and It Is Now stream that I was on at 5 o'clock, like I wanted to read the chat, but like I couldn't pay attention to both. So I'm sorry to anybody in there who I didn't respond to. I couldn't. My brain sometimes just starts imploding, trying to do both at once. Christian Science is different from school system science, but I'm not even talking about Christian Science. I just mean like as a Christian looking into science, for a lot of us, it makes us go, wow, this is incredible. And it's so designed. That's what I mean by that. Moon landing never happened. I believe space travel is real. I do believe the moon landing happened. But I wonder if what we were shown was the actual moon landing or not. Like, I think there is the potential for us to be on the moon, us to still be on the moon, but for whatever reason, they showed us a fake version of it. Maybe because they didn't want to show us structures or craft that are already existing on the moon and whatever might be on the moon, and they didn't want to show it to us. I think that's one school of thought. And there's also the school of thought that space is already kind of colonized and that we've been to Mars and we're at all these different places in space, but they're not telling us. They're pretending like we haven't been able to go. And I think that. And why are they hiding that from us? That could be a whole host of reasons. But I can't even begin to comprehend why, but I do think they might be on Mars, or maybe because they found things that they don't want us to know, like they cover everything else up. And that, Mars and the Earth aren't these wastelands, but maybe they found evidence of civilizations on them or whatever, or they're active civilizations. I don't know. I'm just throwing ideas out there. But yeah, I do believe that there's a secret space program, that there's more space program stuff and explorations happening than we know, and they haven't told us. But yeah, I do think space and the moon are real and the earth is round. Let's see. I think you're right. My thoughts on CERN: opening portals, summoning entities to weaponize, and trying to play God. And if you look at the occultic rituals that happen at CERN, and I know that the powers that be are into the occult and these type of rituals and stuff happen everywhere. But what happened at CERN and is it Gothard? Yeah, the Gothard tunnel are so specific. And in their imagery, Shiva being right outside CERN in Shiva's dance. I forget the name of the dance that means like the destruction of the old universe and the creation of the new. It's all very, very particular. Like, think about any science facility you've been to or visited or driven by. Like, you usually don't see that amount of imagery. You don't see opening ceremonies that are like so blatantly ritualistic and representative of rituals. Like, that's not a normal thing. So why at CERN? And it really makes you think that there's something more going on at CERN than just normal particle physics research, that there's something spiritual happening at CERN, and something weaponing happening, something portal happening. We talked a little bit about this last week, and I will get more into this today. But I like the chat. That's why I keep looking over at the chat. I have a good time with it. So sorry. So moon landing never happens, or we have gone to the moon, but they just showed us a fake moon landing. I'm curious to hear your opinion. Hi, Drix. Thank you for coming tonight. How did a Game Boy's worth of CPU do a lunar mission? Exactly. I don't know, but I think somehow they did. Or no, maybe they had more advanced tech and they just pretended that that was how they got to the moon. Because I think our tech is way more developed than they're letting on, and they could do a lot more. So if that's the case now, then it had to be the case in the 60s, and they were withholding their technology, and they probably had better tech to get to the moon. Maybe their tech in the 60s was like our tech today, and they just pretended it was like the Game Boy's worth of a CPU. Yeah, they pretend like Apollo 11, like 18 never happened. I don't know enough about Apollo 18, but isn't it said that they were told on Apollo 18 by whatever entities were on the moon not to return, and that's why they stopped working on the moon? Yeah. Definitely, but especially at CERN. I think you should look up Samuel Rowbotham's Bedford Level Canal experiment. Ooh, I'm intrigued. Okay, thank you. I'll come back and pull this out of the chat later. Okay, so you believe we've never been to the moon at all and never will. Interesting. Huh. That's interesting. Maybe we should all take our pulse money and like try to go to the moon on our own to prove it once and for all. I'm gonna build a rocket out of your old iPod. Then you go for it. Go for it, and you let me know. Is the moon made of cheese? But, so sorry. Let me check my notes because they're a complete mess because my brain was just going and I was dumping it in just out of order. But also some more symbolism about CERN that I've come across. So CERN, my camera keeps going in and out of focus. There we go. So CERN, if you look at the logo of CERN, it like has these swirls, and I guess you could look at it and be like, oh, that's like physics or whatever. But people realize the swirls, the 3 swirls on the CERN logo, if you orient them in a certain way, it's a 666. And we know from the book of Revelation, the end of the world, the Antichrist is represented by 666. Interestingly, I saw somebody bring up the concept that okay, CERN in 1989 created the internet, which I thought the internet existed before then, unless it was more of an intranet instead of the internet. But it's said that CERN invented the internet in 1989. And when we go places on the internet, it is, we type in, or or the actual, okay, we don't have to type it anymore, but the actual full addresses of different websites start with www, right? World Wide Web. And the interesting thing about that is that in Hebrew, the six, it looks like a W, right? And we use three W's. So if you were to kind of change it to that Hebrew looking W that represents a six, we would be starting every web address with 666, which is interesting and creepy at the same time. Also, in Hebrew, the sixth letter of the alphabet is the Wa, right? And then Wa would sound like Wa, World Wide Web. And I know this sounds like it's reaching, but you look at it and you're like, are they doing everything in plain sight? They're putting the three sixes in their logo. They're doing www, which looks like the Hebrew six, and it's repeating three times. And they have wa, the sixth letter of the alphabet that has a similar sound to World Wide Web. It's weird because you look at that, and 666 is, I believe, the Antichrist. And some people believe that CERN is trying to summon the spirit of the Antichrist and then sending it out to humanity through the World Wide Web, and that the World Wide Web becomes the vehicle, in a sense, for the Antichrist. So I heard that today, and that was a little mind blowing, especially when we start talking about portals tonight. But how about those Georgia Guidestones this week? Yes, and that's another thing I'm going to talk about, because you wonder, it happened the same week as CERN. So you're like, oh, and I do not think it was blown up by somebody making a point. I believe that it was blown up symbolically, but you're not a flat mooner. I like a flat mooner. I like that. So NASA says they lost the technology to go to the moon. Oh, convenient. They lost the tech. They really said that. They lost the tech to go to the moon. Okay. No. That's fishy. And it also is like, I feel like mocking, like, we lost the tech, guys. So let's see these idiots fall for that. That's interesting. I don't like that. And I don't buy it. Say, let's take our pulse money and see what's in Antarctica. How can we decide which one to do? Though, let's see what's over the ice wall. But I know it's a flat earth thing, and I'm not a flat earther. But I love the concept of the ice wall. I think that's fascinating, and it reminds me of the ice wall in Game of Thrones. I am out of focus. Hold on, let me focus this. If I throw this in front of it, it should do it. Okay. Did I just make it worse? Come on. Come on, camera. Hold on. This is gonna annoy me. There we go. Okay. If the moon is flat, is it a cheese platter? Ooh. Now you're gonna make me want to eat cheese. Yeah, lots of satanic imagery everywhere. No, I'm with you. It is everywhere. And it almost seems like kind of like, is it there to mock us? Is it there to make us immune to it? Is it there to infiltrate us? Is it there to program us? You wonder why it's everywhere. Or is it just the powers that be are honoring the being that they worship? Who knows? Oh, Ottawa's new logo is also 666. Gosh, in Canada is like off the wall lately. So I'm not even surprised that that's Ottawa's new logo. Oh, DARPA created the new logo. DARPA sounds familiar. What is DARPA? Let me quickly look. DARPA. Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. Oh, that doesn't sound sinister at all. Shoot. Let me see. Catching up on this chat. The Guidestones was an inside job. I feel like that too. Yep. And that it was symbolic. Oh, they did say that? I didn't realize that. Oh, are you talking about the moon? Oh, the NASA destruction. Sorry, because I got behind. I don't know what's being talked about now. Oh, okay. Yeah, the moon destruction. Yeah. Oh, the hard drives with all the telemetry. I didn't realize that they were pulling that stuff. Yeah, so NASA, I mean, to me, seems like a fake agency. It also seems like a front, and I believe it's a front to cover up the secret space program. But 33 separate enclosures, but are ice walls one of the 33? So you're saying that, oh, there's 33 separate enclosures on the flat Earth theory. I mean, I do find it fascinating. I mean, how wild would it be if it is flat? But let's take our hex money and find out, our pulse money. But I do think we live on a marble-looking planet. Okay, so it was Don Pettit that said that. I can't believe they said they lost the tech to go to the moon. And then conveniently they could build other vehicles and they could build the space shuttle and everything, but they can't figure out the tech again, which is now becoming ancient tech. Or, by the time the 80s rolled around, that was ancient tech. Yeah. No. And I can't believe they expected us to buy that. Hey, you're able to make it live. Thank you for coming in tonight. We're talking about CERN. We're doing some more CERN talk. NASA is a front to make you think there is space. Marble. Well, marble looking, not like literal marble, like in what was it? Men in Black, the cat's collar. It was like a universe or a planet or something. NASA gets 60 million a day for CGI. There we go. It's a front. I do find it weird that even SpaceX, I'm like, why is everything so blatantly CGI? And then I assumed that, they couldn't really give us the thing because maybe it's too, the footage because it's too close to the thrusters or the fire or whatever. So, that's why they're giving us a CGI version so we get an idea of what's going on. But then I look at everybody and everybody's like, wow, this is amazing. Look at this video. And there's no acknowledgement of it being CGI, but it's so blatantly being CGI. So I'm like, that did throw me off. That does throw me off. I don't know. Yeah. But it was literally a composite imagery of the Earth. The artist spoke on marble composite. I don't know. I still buy the round Earth thing. No real photo or video in 2022. I do find, I mean, there are certain things that don't make sense to me. I agree that so much of our imagery looks CGI or artistically rendered, and I'm like, we should have the tech to show it for real. But I just can't let go of the idea that it's round and that there is space. We live in a weird world. But then, why aren't they telling us? I don't know. What are they hiding? Again, I think it's real. I think it's secret space program. But look, you're making my brain implode. Interstellar is pretty good. I watched it once. Saw it in 10 millimeter IMAX. You should get a live stream interview with David Weiss. He's got a whole presentation on NASA's secret lies and contradictions. You know what? That sounds tempting because I am coming to the belief that NASA is a lie, that NASA is fake. But I do think there's space, and I do think we live on a round ball and that we've been to space. So it'd be interesting to talk to him. Oh, I didn't know he's a hexagon. Interesting. It's like a snow globe in a way. Oh, contained. Okay, that's what you mean. Yeah, that definitely is a rabbit hole. Cognitive dissonance. It's no. Calling me cognitive dissonance. Okay. Maybe CERN is fake. You know what? It could be, but it seems like there's too much occultic stuff going on. So that's what makes it seem like a front. But yeah, now I gotta talk to David Weiss. Yeah, so maybe the fact that he's a hexagon will come on. I don't know who Warner Van Braun is. Oh, but he's an OG hexagon Weiss. Interesting. Good to know. But so something wild that I saw was the idea of the fifth dimension. So last week we talked about the fact that one of the ideas of CERN is, or one of the motivators in CERN is that they want to discover the fifth dimension, that they want to figure out this fifth dimension. And the idea behind that is that we live in a four-dimensional universe, and there's people that think we have way more. Actually, string theory believes that there's way more dimensions happening, but they're all coiled up. And that there is a fifth dimension, but it's coiled up somehow. But there are other people that believe that no, there is no, I mean, that it's not coiled. It is there, and it's like right alongside us, that there's this fifth dimension, which makes me think of the upside down, right? So the upside down is kind of like right alongside them, but you have to go through a portal, CERN portals, to get there. But so there's there's a few different beliefs on the fifth dimension, but the idea that there's a fifth dimension, that people believe that this dimension is sitting right alongside ours, and that it's very similar to ours, but it has some slight differences. Which, when we talk about predictive programming, a lot of people believe that Stranger Things is predictive programming, and that it's showing us that there is this dimension that you can go into, and that because in the Stranger Things, everything in the upside down, in their other dimension, is similar but different, not quite. So CERN, they're trying to get into this fifth dimension. And if you want to take, and I know not everybody, is of the same faith and spiritual mindset, but if you want to take the Christian belief, the Jewish belief, there is a belief that there that there's the demonic is like, around us, that it kind of, I think they call like Satan the prince of the air, that it's constantly like present around us. Like if you can put spiritual glasses on, that you can see this whole other world that's existing around us. So there is that belief in the Christian faith. I want to say the Jewish faith, but I'm not entirely sure. But at least in the Christian faith, there's that belief. So if you look at it that way, you're like, okay, so that would kind of be another dimension, and they somehow know how to get in and out of our dimension and mess with us. So you wonder then, is that what the fifth dimension is? They're searching for this fifth dimension, and they're trying to make a portal to the fifth dimension. And when you look at it that way, you look at it like, okay, if they were able to make like a portal that makes easier in and out of this fifth dimension, does it have the potential to unleash things onto the world? And there is a verse in Revelation that talks about, in the end times, an abyss opening up, and just this evil pouring out of it, and just terrorizing earth for 4 months, and to the point where people are wishing they could die, and they're not dying, and they're just being tortured from this. So you kind of look at it like, oh shoot, maybe that's what the fifth dimension is. And if they're trying to open up a portal to it, and they do, that this is going to unleash the book of Revelation. And people believe that part of making that portal into that fifth dimension is to release the spirit of the Antichrist, to release the Antichrist onto the world. And then if we look at the fact that they made the internet, and some people believe that, the internet will be the vehicle that the Antichrist will use, or the spirit of the Antichrist, to reach the whole world. It's kind of scary. And then adding the fact on top of that there's so much occult stuff going on. So when you look at it like spiritually like that, then all the occult stuff makes sense. Like, oh, they're basically making their sacrifices and their ceremonies to the dark force in the fifth dimension that they're trying to connect to with the portal, and that they possibly will unleash all of us. So then all the occultic activities, when you look at it through that lens, make sense. That there's something going on, that there's something that they want to open up, that there is something that they want us to, that they want to unleash. So to me, I don't think it's the whole particle physics thing. Yeah, that might be the front. They might be faking whatever discoveries they made, or maybe they are finding these cool discoveries. But I think that's what I think. I think that they are trying to, that it's something spiritual, that they're trying to open up a portal to, and yes, there is already demonic activity in our dimension, but they're trying to completely open things up and unleash things on top of the world, because this is who they serve. That they serve the occult, and that's what the occult is, and that it all resides in the fifth dimension, because that dimension is right alongside us. So I think, and a lot of people do believe that, that it's a satanic thing that's happening over there. And I do believe the weapons thing. And we we had said this in the chat before. Was it 369 who had said it? I'm sorry, sometimes I lose track of who says what, that it's almost like a spiritual weapon to unleash on the world. So you could see, yeah, CERN being a weapon spiritually, but I also think it's like a physical weapon. Like they're trying to create antimatter weapons there too. Which, I mean, some good could come out of like antimatter research, if we can make antimatter propulsion to get us through space, the space that I think is real. Would be pretty cool. But then, if you weaponize it, then it's a problem. But let me catch up with this chat. You're suspicious of literally everything, especially nowadays. It just like is completely like everything seems. Sorry, I'm just gotta check on the dog. Okay, everything kind of seems completely like. A lot of our suspicions have gotten confirmed more and more. Things that seem like conspiracy theories aren't anymore. So definitely that makes you suspicious of everything. It makes me suspicious of everything. CERN being a giant spark plug. Like that. Oh, okay. I've heard that there are Nazi connections with NASA. Yes. Yeah. Okay. We've been indoctrinated to believe we live in a spinning ball. It's ridiculous when you look at the heliocentric model. A lot of our education, yeah, is more so indoctrination than education. I will agree with you on that point. They want to get to the fifth dimension before we do, so they can blow it up, probably. Oh, interesting. They want to destroy that fifth dimension. But I think they want to unleash the fifth dimension on us and on our world, because that's who they serve. And they think that maybe they'll get some reward by serving that darkness. Imagine if you had to get the humans to believe something could take place before you tried to make it happen. Now imagine no one has an imagination and you control all the media. Okay, I have to reread this. It's not processing in my brain and it sounds deep. So imagine if you had to get the humans to believe something could take place before. Oh, okay. Like predictive programming. People believe that predictive programming is basically getting our permission before they go and carry something out. And that's why so many things in the media seem to come true in our world, because they had to show us first before they can carry it out. And imagine no one has an imagination and you control all the media. Nobody does have an imagination anymore. True. I'm with you on that. Fifth dimension itself is not bad. There are good fifth dimension entities too, right? I don't know. I don't know enough about how interdimensional entities work, but I was just looking at it from that demonic perspective. But I guess maybe we'll find out. I don't know if it's a good thing, but we'll find out with CERN. Thank you, Glenn. That's so kind of you. Thank you so much. So I think space is real, but I believe the firmament and the four corners of the Bible spoke about are real. Okay, that we have basically a blocking us from space. I saw this amazing picture somewhere where, people that believe in the firmament do believe it's completely indestructible. But I saw this picture and it was really mind blowing because it was this pieces of blue glass on the ground. And I know you can fake something like that, but it looked unlike anything I had ever seen before. And it was just like one of these random pictures that appear online. And they were saying that this is like an actual piece of the firmament that's broken off. And it was really mind blowing because, like I said, it looked like nothing I'd ever seen before. So when they put it that way, it did make me kind of question my reality for a moment. So it started with rock and roll, and now they're punching a portal through to the fifth dimension. I have heard that rock and roll and Aleister Crowley, and that there are links to the demonic with that. I still listen to music. I'm still a concert goer, or at least I used to be, but this past 2 years have wiped out all my interest in that. But I've heard that, that it's used ceremonially, that it's used ritualistically, and that it does have links to the occult. That's why you have to be mindful and you have to have discernment with the kind of media you consume. So read Second Kings chapter 6, verses 15 through 17. It talks about the spiritual realm surrounding us with stuff we don't normally see. The prophet Elisha praying for the eyes of his servant to be open to that realm. Yes. And I've heard people who have said that they have seen the angelic realm, or, or um the good realm, and that they've seen angels in it too. So there are, and I love that there is the Bible's basically telling us, and here those of us who are Christians questioning, are there, there's a lot of Christians who kind of who don't want to open their eyes and awaken to some of these realities, even though it's right there in the Bible. But it's so true, and I do believe that all these realms do exist around us, and I do think that's what CERN's attempt is when they say that they're trying to discover the fifth dimension, that they are trying to make it into those realms. And then you could look at it and be like, well, can mankind actually do that? Can they open up, the make portals into these spiritual realms? And I like to think that no. How do we as humans have the power to do that? But then when you start bringing the occult into it, you start doing occultic rituals, okay, then maybe it's not humans getting into the fifth dimension, maybe it's inviting the fifth dimension in, but like to an extreme. Yeah. Oh, totally. Sometimes I'm like, man, imagine if you had like spiritual goggles and you could see the spiritual warfare around us. It's just like when people take those, I think it's called third generation night vision goggles, and they go into certain places in the desert and they look up into the sky and they see all these things in the sky that you didn't see before. And they say it sometimes looks like different unidentified aerial phenomenon, like battling each other. I'm like, what if we had glasses like that into the spiritual realm? Um, we have power over other beings. I think so. I mean, depending what perspective you're looking at, like I do believe words have power, and if you're Christian, there are certain things you could say that would have power over dark beings. Yeah, I do believe that. It's like Imagination Land in the South Park episode. They open a portal where everything you think becomes real, good, and bad. Oh, I haven't seen that episode, but it's like there's so much in the media that you wonder, is it predictive programming? Is it them flaunting things in front of us and being like, "Oh, you idiots don't even know, and we're gonna mock you," or is it, well, a warning? Um, okay, so they shot nukes up at the firmament, USA and Russia together. Then there's an old grainy video, and it speaks for itself. I think I'll have to look that up. But like I said, when I saw that picture of that glass that was supposed to be, or this substance, that did give me pause, because like I don't, I believe the firmament used to be a thing, and that it came down at a certain point in the Bible for the flood. But the idea of it still being around kind of is kind of mind-boggling to me. Can we verify yet if the Battle of Los Angeles actually took place or not? Our military battled aerial craft and we got spanked in the streets. I mean, what? Don't they have a reenactment every year of the Battle of Los Angeles? Which makes me wonder, like, usually everything gets hidden. They suppress information from us. So if the powers that be allow us to have this reenactment, this event that celebrates it every year, I feel like that means it did happen. Because, like, okay, if you can make people think it's a fun event and make people feel like it, kind of give people a sci-fi vibe, then they're just going to look at it like that, and they're not going to believe that happens. They're going to look at it as an urban legend if you let them celebrate it like that. So, because I feel like it's something that they can't cover it up. They're like, okay, if you kind of elevate it to urban legend level, then people aren't going to believe that it happened. They're just going to think it's something fun that we're just playing around with, that is a conspiracy theory. So that makes me think that it really happened. Does that make sense? But oh, good morning in Thailand to you. Oh, so this is, I know you're in Thailand, but I never made the connection that means that this is a morning stream for you. So good morning, good Sunday morning to you. Yeah, there's an annual reenactment, and they like sell t-shirts and everything for it. Operation Fishbowl and Operation Dominic for Russia. I've heard of Operation Fishbowl. I just never looked into it. Oh, so that's what Operation Fishbowl is. Man, I can't. Like, what? So, but so yeah, so fifth dimension. So getting into the fifth dimension. And it's interesting because Hex Tuna had tweeted at me, and we had talked about quantum computing. The quantum last week, that quantum computing is this, supercomputer that allows you to communicate between parallel universes. And Hex Tuna had tweeted at me, and he said that quantum computing is actually happening, and that there is communication between the parallel universes, between the other dimensions, and that they are sending info out to it, and they are getting info out, and they don't know where it's going, but they're sending this info anyway. And he had said, this is really concerning, because what are they sending it to us, and who's intercepting? I mean, sorry, what are they sending out about us potentially, and who is intercepting it? And yet it's coming back to us. And of course, that's kind of an idea that gets tossed around. You can't really find any, information that you can certify it and say that this is truth or not, because again, I think so much of the truth is suppressed and is hidden from us. So it could just be talk, or it could actually be happening. And I wouldn't be surprised if it is happening. And they're somehow communicating with this dimension. But he said that, I guess there's rumors that it is actually happening, and they are quantum computing with these other dimensions, which is like, it is concerning, because then you really it makes you sit back and think, what is going on at CERN? There has to be more to the story, because we have hadron colliders around the world. We have hadron colliders in the United States. What makes that special? Is it just the size? Is it the energy potential? Or is it the occultic stuff? Occultic things have to get built on certain sites. Is there something about that site where they can open the abyss and unleash everything on the earth? It becomes this whole rabbit hole when they look at it. So what is the 25-year minimum? Did I miss something? Okay, so if we look at CERN being, potentially demonic, it being potentially a thing that unleashes the spirit of the Antichrist, we can look at it as also bad energy, bad things happening, whatever you want to define these bad energy as. So if we could all agree, regardless of our faith, whether we believe or whether we don't, I'm sure we can come to the conclusion or the agreement that has the potential for like just bad energy coming out of that place. And it's interesting because on July 5th, CERN turned on, and look at everything that's happened this week. Yeah, the Georgia Guidestones blew up, which, if you are not familiar with the Georgia Guidestones, it basically is like, I don't want to say commandments, but it is like kind of things about depopulation in the New World Order, and almost like shows how it would come about. I don't know if it's kind of if you would call it rules, but it's kind of like these guidelines of the New World Order. And people didn't like it because people felt like it was this monument mocking us and how they're going to destroy us, and, for our destruction, and people would vandalize it. And there's even like, if you look at it from above, there's like a blood splatter on top. So people are like, is that a prank? Was that somebody getting mad and doing something? Or did that actually come from an occultic ritual? Was that their occultic blessing on the Georgia Guidestones? But Georgia Guidestones exploded. And then later that day, I guess because it was unstable, whatever didn't explode, they had to knock it down. And at first it was cool. It's like, yeah, somebody blew up the Georgia Guidestones. Like, it felt like it was a cool statement against the New World Order. And then I'm like, I don't know. It just felt funny. It wasn't sitting right with me. Something about it. And then I heard things like, and I'm not a huge believer in like, oh, the numbers mean this and numbers mean that. But I know that the occult likes to use 333. And it's interesting because 3 is also an important number in Christianity. It represents the Trinity. But the occult, I guess, having to mock what they don't believe in, or who they're fighting against, has to, then warp it and use a perversion of it. So, they constantly use the repeating 3s, and the powers that be, the cult, the elites, they do that. So interestingly, the Georgia Guidestones exploded at 3:33 a.m. and it was George W. Bush's birthday. So that made me go, okay, whoa. So this had to, as we mentioned before, it had to be an inside job. There had to be something else going on. And I can't help but wonder if the elites set it up. We know that they're trying to bring about the great reset, that we've been going that direction, that they've been moving in it all along. So I'm not saying it's kicking off the beginning of it, but I feel like the next step, like what if they made it explode to say, boom, we're kicking up the next step. We're kicking it up a notch. This is going to be the next big thing, the New World Order. This is our next big push toward it. And we are going to represent that by blowing up the Georgia Guidestones. That is going to be our beginning for this new part. So that's why I'm like, oh, Interestingly, it happened the same week as CERN. Both things kind of involve the elites and the powers that be. And look at everything that's happened this week. We've had the Dutch farmers completely, like, really not just protesting, really going nuts, spraying the cops with manures, stealing planes, buying tanks, and like cops have been firing on them. Like it's been really intense because the Netherlands shut down a ton of farms saying, I guess they wanted to follow WEF standards. We need to cut carbon emissions by 25%. So we're going to we're going to close down these farms. And I also heard it has to do with the land redistribution too. Which, yeah, I could see tying into a new world order. Land redistribution, saying that they also wanted to take that farmland and give it to the new migrants coming in. So it's going to be a redistribution of wealth and land in that way too. And now all of Europe has completely like fell into these protests. So Italy, they're protesting. They're trying to get out. Draghi, I don't know how to pronounce his name. Their prime minister. Is France protesting too? Just Poland, I think, started. Like all of a sudden. Do you remember when the Arab Spring happened? It was like one after the other. Every country, every Muslim country going around the Mediterranean. Now all of a sudden, like Europe's on fire. One country after another. There's just this unrest. And problem with that is we're already in a time of potential food shortages that seem to be intentionally created. Now you're adding the closing down of farms in Europe on top of that, and now farmers are working together with the fisheries, and the fisheries are going to blockade the ports, which you can see also leading to further food shortages. And I don't blame the farmers; they're in the right. But it kind of all plays into their plan of this chaos that's happening. And then Shinzo Abe got assassinated in Japan and died. Georgia Guidestones blew up. Gosh, there was so much. I meant to write it all down. But all of a sudden this week, did you notice there was just constant chaos? Sri Lanka like completely collapsed. They've been going through food issues and superinflation before. It was weird because I heard something along the lines of, don't quote me, it's not exact, but kind of the gist is that they had these massive levels of inflation happening in Sri Lanka. And in order to, I don't know, ease the inflation, they stopped imports of certain things. And then one of them was fertilizer, or the ingredients for fertilizer. Of course, if you start messing with the fertilizer, then you affect the crops in Sri Lanka. There's been major food shortages. People have been rioting. So now people have so now Sri Lanka completely went into bankruptcy. People have all descended on the president's house, and the president's fled. Like Sri Lanka is like completely upside down. So there's just been these constant things happening all week that are like huge events. Usually you would hear about stuff like this once in a while, and it's all in the same week. Same week they started CERN, right? And I think there's so much more that happened this week, but I'm forgetting. But let me just catch up with this chat. Let's see. Ooh, it's hopping. I like this. What if they're trying to contact our dimension? It comes in a scam likely. That's funny. Think about too in scripture during the time of the Tower of Babel, and we all had one language. God said nothing man tried to accomplish would be withheld from them. Oh, interesting. And I've heard people liken CERN to the Tower of Babel. It's an interesting way to put it. We're heading back to the ability to have one language again with technology. That's true. That's interesting. I've heard of CERN kind of being like the new Tower of Babel. So in the Bible, when they wanted the Tower of Babel, they wanted to build a tower to reach heaven, to reach God. And God said, because at the time, because humans were all had one language, they were able to accomplish a lot and work together to build this Tower of Babel. And God was like, nope. And he made everybody have different languages and basically scattered the people, saying, basically, I'm summarizing it in a terrible way, but almost like kind of saying, you know what, humans are arrogant, and you push back on them. And now people have likened CERN to a Tower of Babel. People are like, yes, so we're going to discover the origins of the universe. We're going to discover the quote unquote God particle. And people believe that that is like a modern day Tower of Babel. And it's going to lead to destruction. It's going to be God maybe pushing back on people and being like, nope, not this time. So, but I just explained that terribly, but I thank you for bringing that up, Hexagon Contractor. Yes, that was the other thing. Banks in Canada went down. So Canada has this cell phone provider. I forgot the name of the what's it called? Their provider. But basically half of Canada's cell phones went down. Payment services went down. Banks went down. 911 services went down all at once and for a long time. And this all happened the same week CERN turned on. So you could look at it and be like, is this related? Did CERN put out some sort of negative energy that's now attacking the earth and going all over the earth? Because I've also heard a lot of people say that there's been an increase in weird dreams and nightmares this week. My dreams seem to be normal, but a lot of people had said that it's changing the way that they dream. It's changing that something all of a sudden this week, their dreams are weird. Their dreams are off. And it's interesting because you look at it, you're like, is CERN putting out some sort of negative energy that's happening, that's causing all these crazy world events to happen, that's causing people to dream weird? Or was it symbolic? Was the turning on of CERN symbolic because this was all planned and the NWO, the Great Reset, was going to accomplish all these things and make these things happen anyway? But they needed something symbolic, and that was turning on CERN and blowing up the Georgia Guidestones. But there's definitely, you kind of wonder if there's a link either one way or the other. Okay, so Sri Lanka wanted to go organic. Oh, that's interesting. So, and what do you mean it's not good? What's not good? Is it bad economically to go organic? Or the powers that be didn't want people organic? They wanted everybody poisoned by everything. So the EU Parliament in Brussels actually, oh yes, I've heard that. So if you look at the European Union Parliament, it's in Brussels, and it is modeled to look like the Tower of Babel, which again, I just feel like there's this constant mocking going on, whether they want to mock God or mock the people and be like, we're going to destroy you and we're going to be all symbolic about it. Remains to be seen. Yes, thank you so much, Crypto Jack. If you could like and subscribe to this, I would really love that. Thank you, guys. Oh, Strasbourg Parliament. Okay, is. Strasbourg Parliament, but I think it's the European Union Parliament. If you, go and look up that imagery. I can't put it on here. I can't project it on here. But if you look at it, it definitely looks like, the way, what we believe the Tower of Babel to look like, that they made their parliament look like that. What's the purpose? What's the point? Doesn't make any sense. Yeah, the great mocking. It really does seem like we're mocked at every turn. But really, what do you guys think? Do you think all these crazy events that happened all at once, it seems like, which makes me concerned, what is next week going to bring? Do you think it's related to CERN turning on? Do you think that it's an energy thing, or do you think it was a symbolic Great Reset thing that they had to turn that on first before everything could happen? I'm curious to hear your take. So, Great Awakening. Yeah, Great Mocking and the Great Awakening. That's what it seems like we're in. And the Great Deception. So they're going to deny creation in the end. How so? What do you mean by that? Oh, okay, so Strasbourg Parliament and the EU Parliament was the same thing. Gotcha. Yeah. So Have you guys had weird dreams? I'm curious. Let me know in the chat if you have been dreaming weirder than usual lately. And I do think, CERN is putting out some sort of energy into the world, whether it be demonic energy, whether it want to be negative energy. And maybe it's linked together. Maybe the Great Reset is kicking things off this week. And maybe it was both symbolic, the turning on of CERN and the destruction of the Georgia Guidestones. And maybe they also needed that negative energy out in order to do it. So I believe all is a plan, but we see through the deception. And yes, because we are awake, because we educate ourselves, because we stay aware. So many people have just completely bought into it. But it's like zombie. We just live in this zombie land of people. Everybody's just content to consume their media and spend their money and just do, I don't know, as long as they can do all that, comply for the sake of doing the things they love. You know what I mean? Definitely CERN and may have caused the Mandela effect. Interesting. Have you noticed any new Mandela effects lately? I've seen some talk on Reddit. People are like, okay, have we seen any new Mandela effects? I personally don't believe in the Mandela effect, but if you do think that CERN is messing with parallel universes and dimensions, then it seems like it has the potential to cause the Mandela effect. Oh, you lived the dream. Okay, you don't have weird dreams. Your life is the weird dream. You never remember dreams. You want to know what's weird? I always used to remember my dreams, and lately I hardly do. I remember sometimes fact that I had a dream, but I can't remember them anymore, and it's kind of a bummer. But sometimes I remember a dream, but it's weird. I used to really clearly remember it, and then all of a sudden I can't. Somebody pulling the strings. I think they're on a more local level. The strings are being pulled by the elites. You lucid dreamed so much. You're happy for not dreaming for a while. Ooh, I've heard some things about lucid dreaming. Personally, would not mess with that. Yeah, we see through the deception. Many still don't. And they don't want that. Because if you look, we're being poisoned at every turn, whether it's through fluoride, whether it's through the food we eat. Because if you are constantly making people fat, sick, and lazy, then they're just going to go with the flow. They're going to be compliant because it's easier. It's the path of least resistance. Because you know what? If you do wake up and you see through the deception, you can't really live life as normal anymore. You either want to push back against it or it makes you live your life differently. And people don't want that change. They want to be in their ways. They want to be at that place of people are willing to be compliant and go along with everything so that they can live their fat, happy lives. And I don't mean physically fat, but just, consuming and buying stuff and going on their vacations or whatever. And people don't want to mess with that. They want to be comfortable. That's the word I'm looking for. Mandela effect, I believe, is a scam by the system to survey and discredit those who fall into it, in my view. Oh, that's interesting. Because if you look at the Mandela effect, the things they're trying to claim are the Mandela effect seem to have some other reasonable explanations. And just the way the mind works, remembers things. Like, okay, this one drives me crazy. Shazam. Everybody's like, oh no, Kazam. Kazam is part of the Mandela effect. I think, yeah, Kazam was the actual, because it was actually called Shazam and it had Sinbad playing a genie. But now we look at it and it's called Kazam and it has Shaq playing a genie. And this is proof of the Mandela effect. And it drives me crazy because you can see that it's just the brain connecting other things that don't make sense. Because everybody thinks Sinbad was the genie in Kazam instead of Shaq, because people forget that all that aired in the same time period, and all that had Sinbad playing, I believe, not a genie, but a Middle Eastern man. And the way that, which I'm sure is very politically incorrect nowadays, would not air on TV. But Sinbad, was playing this Middle Eastern man and had on the stereotypical genie-like looking garb. And people remember that. And for whatever reason, when they think of the movie Kazam, they're thinking of Sinbad playing that character Ishbu on all that. And they're pulling that into Kazam and forgetting the fact that that Shaq was in it. So you kind of like see where people pull things out of. So I don't buy into the Mandela effect, but it's interesting because it kind of, you could see almost like they're kind of separating people. They want to see, it's like a test. They want to see how people are going to view things, how people are going to react to things, and they watch us in certain ways. When I mean watch us, I don't mean that they're like sitting in your closet watching you, but they're looking in general at society's reactions to things and human reactions into things, and judging by the way people react to the Mandela effect, it kind of makes them, gauge what they can do, how far they can go, what they can say or do. So that's an interesting thought. That makes a lot of sense. CERN has made rituals before and has an evil entity of the statue of Shiva stepping on another person. hmm Yeah, they had the opening of the Gothard Tunnel. They had that whole occultic ceremony that everything was like blatantly symbolic and seemingly linked to what they're doing and their names and everything. And then there was an occultic ritual that was performed right outside of that Shiva statue at CERN, and people said that it looked like a human sacrifice. And it was all discredited and said, people were like, no, it was a stunt, it was a hoax, this did not happen. But there are other people that really believe that it wasn't a hoax, that they're just covering up, and it did happen. Who knows the truth? I don't know if we'll ever know the truth, but let's say that was real. Well, a lot of the things that they need to do in order to operate the occult needs blood sacrifices. So maybe it was real and they didn't expect somebody to be recording. Or maybe everybody knew about the suspicions about CERN and wanted to play into that and do a viral hoax. Who knows? But it really makes you wonder. It's concerning because you know what? They're doing this fake sacrifice outside of CERN. They're not doing it anywhere else. It's weird. What? It was Sinbad and Kazam? No, Sinbad wasn't all that. And he dressed like a genie, and everybody thinks it was in Kazam. That's what I think it is. People are confusing the two. Mirror, mirror on the wall, no longer the same now, is now mirror, mirror, magic mirror on the wall. Check your VHS. Spooky. Magic mirror on the wall from what? Snow White? Is that where it comes from? Huh. It's interesting. No weird dreams, but you eat a lot of red meat. I do like red meat. I always forget how to pronounce her name. It's Ghislaine. The Ghislaine Maxwell child trafficking trial. Super secret. No one talked about it. But actors Jay Depp and his wife all over the news 24/7. Yep. Distraction. It's like not a disinformation campaign. It's a distraction campaign because they know everybody's going to be obsessed with the celebrities and watch that instead of, the trafficking trial. But really, if you really are obsessed with the celebrities, don't you want to know who's on her flight list? But people are bombarded with BS news and they love it. Yeah. Then the media does that because they know people will consume it. If people just all shut it off, then they would have nobody to advertise to, people to show this to. But it's true, they know that we will look at the shiny object instead of what's going on. So whenever something like that happens, like the Johnny Depp trial, you have to sit back and go, what else is going on? What are they distracting us from? Sinbad and Shazam. I'm telling you, I remember watching that movie as a kid, and I remember it as Sinbad in Kazam. But were we both living in different universes? No, but seriously, I do remember it at the time, like when it was released, as Sinbad in Kazam. Okay, so the magic mirror on the wall was Snow White. But it's interesting because now modern versions of Snow White are using mirror, mirror instead of the original. This is weird. You should check out Wrist Flex. She does the same as me. It would be cool to see you stream together. She's kind of hardcore. Not sure if you're ready for her. Wait, I haven't gotten to all my comments from last week. Was she one of you guys had mentioned connecting me with somebody else, and I'm wondering if that was her. I'm sorry, I'll go back and answer that comment tonight, but thank you to whoever that was. I can't remember at the time. I don't know, Tomas, I guess we were watching two different movies. I'm telling you, I do remember Shaq because Shaq was like the big thing back then. Oh, that was you? Okay, thank you so much for writing that comment. I'm so sorry I've been delayed at responding to things this week, but I really appreciate that, and I'm gonna sub to her. Um, so it's all right. I could take some hardcore conspiracy theories. It'd be interesting. Okay, wrist flex. Gotcha. Okay, cool. Wrist flex. Okay, cool. Oh, that was you. Okay, that was you, TB Bishop. Sorry, I get confused because I see so many names and my brain doesn't always keep everybody separate. Um, yeah, see, I remember Shaq in Kazam. Um, but I think that's just, yeah, that's the human mind, how it works. But so, wait, who? Okay, but this is interesting. So you're saying you remember being Sinbad in Shazam, but at the same time, you're telling me you believe the Mandela effect is a scam. So then what do you think explains the fact that you think it was that you blatantly remember Sinbad and Shazam? And I clear as day remember Shaq and Kazam. So what do you think explains that if you don't believe in the Mandela effect? I'm curious. I'm not trying to challenge you. I'm genuinely curious. This could end up $1 million question someday. I know, right? What is it? What would Scully call it? I think Scully in the X Files called it. Well, not she call it a mass delusion, not specifically the Mandela effect, but she would use that term in general. We're gonna call it a mass delusion. Yeah. So you've seen the movie, but what do you think explains the fact that that confusion happens? Because you said you believe the Mandela effect is a scam, which I agree with you. I don't believe the Mandela effect. So what is explaining those discrepancies? I mean, what explains those discrepancies? Um, yeah, this is it, thank you. This is fun. Like I never, I learned so much too just chatting with you guys and going back and forth with the live chat because like I said, I don't believe in the Mandela effect, but I never thought of it in that way, like kind of testing us the way Tomas said is a potential, is a possibility. Kind of like they're sorting us out. They're figuring us out, society, the powers that be, so that they can manipulate us, I'm sure. Because what else do they do besides manipulate us? You gonna get me rich? How you gonna get me rich? You got a copy of Kazam with Sinbad, and we're gonna show it on the stream. Hiding a steez in your cozy. Oh yeah, it is a steez. Yeah, I like my stevia sweetened drinks. I am, and the cozy actually does keep it cold. But yeah, I do like my steez. Okay, you just tagged me on Twitter. The meme video is funny. Thank you. Okay, so I'll check it out when I'm out of here. Okay, you believe in Sinbad. No, but what I mean is you said the Mandela effect is a scam. So if it's a scam, why do we have this discrepancy in our memory? That's what I'm curious. I'm curious for your explanation. But yeah, I agree it's a scam. Let's see. But yeah, thank you for spotting my steez. I do love me a steez. Okay. So any other thoughts on CERN? Have you guys heard anything else happening? I'm fascinated by this discovery of these tetraquarks and these pentaquarks because where are they? What do they exist? What do they do? So they told us they discovered it. They haven't. Do they know, or are they just feeding us a line of BS at this point? Who knows? Now you remember this problem. Gotcha. The mud floods. Oh, the Tartarian mud floods. You know what? I love the whole concept of Tartaria and ancient tech and the fact that there were these mud floods and great resets that have happened throughout history. But like I still am learning, I'm still wrapping my head around it because there's so much to start. I just yeah, all these differing ideas. But if anyone is not familiar, just go put into your YouTube search bar. Tartaria. I don't even know how to pronounce it, but I'm going to spell it out here. In the live chat. Tartaria, maybe there's not an R. Close enough. Your YouTube will figure it out when you put that in there. But it speaks about so it's this idea that, well, there's a few different Tartaria ideas, or Tartaria. I don't even know how to say it. So for anyone that's not familiar, there's this idea that, so first of all, the history we live in, the powers that be, they want us to believe that, we've kind of made this crawl through human history, and that our tech has advanced over time, and we've gotten to where we are, and this is kind of the peak of, not peak, but this is the most advanced we've been, and we'll continue to get more advanced. But this whole Tartarian, it's going to annoy me. I'm going to have to look it up after this. Believes that no, there were old civilizations with this ancient tech that was actually very high tech, and that they were wiped out by great resets. And that this has continually happened over time. We know we're in a great reset right now, but it's saying that great resets have always happened during time, and that humans kind of start over from zero, in a sense, technologically, after each great reset. And so that's that Tartaria belief, that they look back at these different things, at these different structures, and say, no, these are actually from the previous civilizations. They're passing it off as being from our civilization. So, like, let's say, I think there's this place called the Salt Palace on the Great Lake, that there's these pictures of it in the 1800s. Sorry, on not the Great Lake, one of the salt lakes. I don't know if it's the Big Salt Lake, or one of the other salt lakes in the region. And this Salt Palace sits on top of this lake, and and it was built in the 1800s, and they have pictures of it in the 1800s. But when you look at it, like, these things that are decorative on it, people are like, well, what if they're not decorative? What if they're actually a part of ancient tech, and somehow they were harvesting free energy based on the fact that there was salt water out there, and they were so advanced that they knew how to harvest it? And in the 1800s, it wasn't built then. It was just people found it and kind of started utilizing it and moving it into it, uh, as if it was theirs, but they really found something old and ancient. And then history was changed to make us think that they've built it. So that's kind of like one of these Tartarian ideas. Like, the idea that, you look at some of these really grand, beautiful, like, marble structures in these places in Europe, and we're supposed to believe that they were built in like the 1500s, and that they were able to do all these things in 1500s, but yet we can hardly complete like a less complicated building like in 2 years, and we're supposed to believe they built them in 5 years. Like, it doesn't make sense when you think about, like, the fact that it would take us years to build something super simple, and yet they were able to do that in the 1600s. So people believe that no, this stuff is ancient. It's from before a previous great reset, and our society in this current era just went in and inhabited it, and and took it as our own, and they rewrote history to make us think that our era, within this reset era, were the ones that built it, and they lied to us, and it's actually old. There's people that believe these giant old fireplaces that you see in these old buildings were ancient tech, that our current people within the past 1,000 years or whatever went in and inhabited these ancient buildings that aren't ancient. I'm sorry, that are ancient. Oh my gosh, I'm getting but sorry, stick with me. I'm getting this all word pudding in my brain. Okay, but the idea of fireplaces, like, you look at old structures from the 1700s and 1800s, and they have these huge grand fireplaces, and they want us to believe that they were used to heat these giant places. But fireplaces, for the most part, are a very inefficient way to heat an area. You have a lot of heat loss, for the energy that's consumed. And they said that there's these things, always, that you see on old fireplaces, these posts, with the balls at the top, and that they're always kind of there as a fireplace decoration. And we're told that it's decorative. But why does every single old fireplace all have the same weird decoration of those things? And the people that believe in the Tartarian thing look at it and they're like, no, because it's actually an ancient tech, and that was some sort of free energy heating system, and that those posts actually make the energy and generate stuff. And the civilization that moved into these buildings had no idea, because these people were wiped out during the Great Reset, had no idea how this current tech works. So they just started building fires in it and made it a fireplace. So, it's things like that. And there's so much to it. And there's so many amazing things. with it. And I could go on with the stuff that I've learned, but that's just some general things. And those are the things that caught my attention and made me start looking into Tartaria. But yeah, maybe some of you guys know more about it than I do. It's a relatively new idea to me. So tell us more about CERN. I've never heard about it till your channel came on to talk about it. Oh, okay. So, but were you in last week's stream? Because last week I covered a lot more about CERN and what was happening. But okay, so thank you, Crypto Jack, for answering that. CERN wants to open dimensions using the collider, and they use that as an excuse to use protons to redo the Big Bang Theory. Looks can be deceiving. Rumors are they use it for time travel as well. So yeah, so to answer your question, how I made, just like Crypto Jack said, it's a hadron collider. They're colliding protons and electrons. They're saying that they want to study the Big Bang, and they're trying to recreate the conditions of the Big Bang, and they're colliding it in this facility. And a lot of people are not happy with that because they say it's dangerous. You can destroy the Earth. You can destroy the universe. And it makes everybody go, okay, why are they taking that risk? Is it really necessary? The info that's going to come out of it. So that's why people believe that CERN is a front and that there's something else going on there. And they're just pretending this type of particle physics are happening. And people believe that CERN might open up a demonic portal, or it could be used for time travel, or it's trying to get into another dimension that is trying to make quantum computing happen. So there's a whole, yeah. So that's basically the whole CERN concept. And if you search on YouTube, there's so many crazy videos about it. Like, I can't even sort through it. There's so many. But I'm just going to hop back to Tartaria for a second because, like, it's so rare I get to talk about that. I don't know, but my guess is the Gaelic, the Gaels were Phoenicians, were Tartarians. I'm Gaelic, so likely biased, but it is what I come to. So yeah, I have heard that the Tartarians might be people. I've never paid too much attention to who the Tartarians are exactly. I've just mostly looked at it as the whole concept that we've been through many great resets, and that there is a whole hidden history that they hide from us that had way, more advanced technology than we might have, or just an equal amount of technology before, for whatever reason, the Earth's resets, the power that be reset us. So yeah. So people believe that the Tartarians did have and use free energy. Because even if you look at, like, let's say the Egyptian pyramids, there's like things that look like the light bulbs that pharaohs were buried with. There are things that look like technology on the inscriptions in the pyramids and in different, temples and things in Egypt. So it makes you wonder, what kind of technology was available. Even if you look at, there's these what is it called? There's these temples, there's these structures that lie along ley lines, and they're built up from the ground, like on post. And people think like, oh, the temples are this, they're that, but they're like, what if the post were providing this energy to the world? Because if free energy is a thing, we are not going to know. They're going to try to hide it from us because they make too much money selling energy from us. But people believe that free energy has been a thing, and that all these other societies before they were wiped out knew how to harvest the free energy. So I'm just going to catch up on these. Sorry, I'm behind, guys. So yeah, so that's the Tartarian thing. I also heard an interesting perspective on Tartaria is that there's also religious perspective that when Christ comes back, that there's like 1,000 years of like peace and all these good things happening, and an amazing culture and civilization. And so people believe that Christ might have already returned, and the Tartarian Empire, the Tartarian kingdom, was Christ's millennium kingdom. And that's why it was so wonderful, and there was so much advanced technology to come out of it, and why we see so many beautiful structures coming out of this. And we're living in that post-millennial kingdom. But I don't know if that's biblical or not, but that's what some people do believe about Tartaria. And it's an interesting idea. It's an interesting theory. The fact that they believe that Christ already came, but it's being hidden from us because they don't, the powers that be don't want us to believe in God, don't want us to believe in Christ. So they're going to hide evidence that he returned. So that's one belief. I would have to dive more into Revelation to see if, what happens after the millennial kingdom, whether, the New Jerusalem and everything comes, or whether there's a time, without Christ on earth. I'm not entirely sure. So I don't know, the accuracy of that, but I think it's also another interesting theory. But maybe we could do a whole show on Tartaria. But jumping back to these comments, yeah, I know the feeling. I sometimes feel like I can hardly talk because there's so many ideas and theories and things to talk about, and then I want to jump back and forth with everything I'm seeing in the chat. But so the Mandela effect, the question you asked, how we can find out what the truth is, requires a complex reply. So I'll try and work something out so I don't flood the chat with too long lines of text. Okay, gotcha. So much being hidden always. How do we know? I just want to know. I know. And you wonder, what is the purpose of hiding all this information? Why is there so much hidden information? Why is there so much rewritten history? And coming back to the whole millennial kingdom thing, it also follows the belief that they've changed the calendar, that we're actually 1,000 years ahead. That instead of living in the year 2022, we're actually living in the year 3022. But they changed the calendar to hide that the millennial kingdom has already happened. I don't know if I buy into that, but I think it's an interesting idea because it comes back to the idea that everything's hidden and it becomes a form of control. You hide information from people, you can control people. You don't educate people, you can control people. It's like when people didn't they not teach slaves to read back in the day because having educated slaves would make them more difficult to control. It's kind of the thing now. We are like the slaves of the elite, where they're drones and they don't want us fully educated to what's happened in our history in the world, because it would make us harder to control, because it would make us know that we can push back against them, and it would cause people to push back against them. Was Nikola Tesla Tartarian? Tesla technology is a whole other episode itself. Oh, that's interesting. An interesting thought. I've also heard the idea that Tesla is a psyop, but I don't get that. I don't see why he would be a psyop. Yeah, truly. It's truly power, and it's and the lack of it, you can control people, with the lack of knowledge. Isn't there a verse in the Bible, my people perish for lack of knowledge? I think it's a really powerful verse. Ooh, I am with you. So many things not fiction. I know. Used to be science fiction. Now we're living these realities. It's crazy. Yeah, and I do believe CERN is creating the antimatter for use as a weapon, and of course to use against us. I'm sure, because it's cool. You can use antimatter and use it for amazing space travel, but more likely they're going to want to do something sinister with it. Yeah, and allegedly there were giants. It's interesting because when you look at different things in the earth, it seems like we have hidden evidence of giants. When you look at certain structures from the sky, like certain things that are mountains, they blatantly look like cut down trees, and you see rings and you see different, striations that you would typically see in wood. There are certain things that look like little mountains or little hills, and when you look at them from up above, they look like a giant that's like petrified. You see these things that look different structures that look like petrified snakes. And when you start looking at it through that lens, you start realizing, and it sounds crazy, but then you do, it's like, how many coincidences can there be? How many giant things that look like petrified giants and petrified giant animals and petrified giant trees could there be? It seems like too much of a coincidence to happen. So when you start looking at certain things through that lens, you start going, oh shoot, maybe that all is real. Maybe giants are a real thing. And I do now think it's a real thing. And there's some people that, I don't know where I stand on this, but it's an interesting idea. There's some people that think dinosaur bones aren't real, like the dinosaurs aren't real, that they're a cover up for giants because they've never found a fully intact complete dinosaur skeleton. So people are like, well, What if they're not real and they're actually giant bones, but they have to find a way to cover it up, and it's easier for them to tell us that there are giant lizards. And why hide the fact that there's giants? Well, I guess because it would hide the fact that there was maybe a mud flood, a great flood, that there's been multiple great resets, that the Bible is real when the Bible talked about giants. I mean, we see, like, David and Goliath. Goliath was a giant. I think he was like a smaller giant. So there's so many reasons you would see the cover up of giants, and I never thought much about it until I started seeing these things that looked like cover ups of giants. Then it made me wonder, that made me realize that it likely was a real thing, especially when you start seeing those giant trees. You're like, okay, well, if there's giant trees and giant animals, and there had to have been giant people one time on Earth. Okay, and is that the Nephilim? Because weren't the Nephilim supposed to be really big? So then I guess it ties into the Book of Enoch. It was really wild rabbit hole. So the feds use numbers to manage pain. Look up 5515 and pain management. I haven't heard that. I have to look that up. Okay, so the CIA, both really shady organizations. Sorry, checking on the dog. He's moving around. Right? Wouldn't that be nice? But we'll never get it, because then they can't make money off the energy sales. Just like, cures for cancer. They make more money just managing cancer than actually if they were to cure it. Supposedly Donald and Barron Trump and Nikola Tesla are time travelers. Oh, and it's funny because I've heard those theories, and that book is so funny where it looks like, Barron Trump. That book what was it? I don't know. I forget what happens in that book, but it really does look like him. So that theory does give me a chuckle. If you get shot, focus on the point of pain. 5515. Ooh, that's creepy. That creeps me out. I don't know. Something about that just gave me a bad feeling. Dr. John Trump certainly emptied Tesla's hotel room notes in New York City. 45's Uncle John. It is interesting that everything about Tesla seems to have been destroyed. Or, everything of value, potentially. We could still get some other writings, but why were they so interested in suppressing this guy's information? Which to me means there must have been something to it. I absolutely believe there's an enlightened society here, or at least really advanced thing hidden. Well, Crypto Heartbeat talks about the fact that maybe we do have a hollow earth, and the Book of Enoch talks about the Nephilim getting cast into the earth. Maybe that's the society that's in the earth, and the society with the advanced intelligence. Because he explained that if the Nephilim exist inside the earth, there's the belief, I forget who said this, but that UFOs are from the earth. They're coming from inside the earth. They're coming from the Nephilim. They're coming from really advanced tech. So many rabbit holes, man. So many wormholes we can go through talking about this. They're protected. But if he did really have the info, wouldn't Trump be trying to make money off it? Because he's a businessman. The teleporting man. Was that Dr. John Trump? Facts. There are Tesla med beds coming soon, and they will help heal and may make us live longer, like our ancestors used to use, since they weren't dealing with it. Of the stuff, people. Interesting. But if med beds can really heal us, will the powers that be actually let that happen? Will they let us have access to that? Because then they'll start losing money off us. Reminds me of the med pods from Prometheus. Oh, that Tesla info is underwater. You know what? Only a very small percentage of the Earth's oceans have been discovered. So you wonder what's down there. But even besides what's down there, not talking like kaiju or anything like that, but what can be hidden? Yeah, because what's down there? You could the fact that like not many people are going down and exploring. You could totally have complete underground tech, you know, um, underwater colonies just hiding secret tech. There could be anything down there. I always find that interesting. Why don't we have underground bases like in the Abyss or like in Sphere? And why aren't we doing more science like that? There has to be a reason. We're either not allowed to, or there's things chasing us out from down there. The movie about Tesla and Edison, the Prestige movie, probably Easter eggs. Oh, okay. Oh, I didn't realize there was a movie about them. Cool. Thank you for that heads up. Aliens underwater, just like in the Abyss, right? And in Sphere. I was going to say something about Sphere, but that would be a spoiler. There are parts even sharks avoid. You know what? And you got to wonder. Animals are intelligent. They do things for a reason. Why are they avoiding certain parts? And I guess I know some people want to say temperature, salinity, this, that. But what if it's something else? What if there's electromagnetic fields that are keeping them away? Because sharks are sensitive to electromagnetic fields. And why are they electromagnetic fields? Are they purposeful force fields? Or is there some experimentation going on down there? So maybe that could be another hexpedition. They track so many sharks, you could see they avoid whole huge sections. It's interesting. Yeah, there's something weird going on about the ocean. Area 51 is a joke compared to what's underwater, is what some people are saying. That makes sense, especially with the recent military pilots video. Oh, yeah, and what do they call that? USOs, unidentified submerged objects. So many people see UFOs all of a sudden dip into the water and become unidentified submerged objects. So what are these things going to? Are they just cruising underwater for the fun of it, or are they heading to a base? I've heard that Area 51 is like a disinformation thing. It's like what do they say to the kids? Look at the birdie, they want us looking at Area 51 so that we're not looking elsewhere. Yeah, I agree. Okay, the book was better. When I was a kid, I saw Sphere. That was the first time I saw it, and I enjoyed it. And then the book was fantastic. It was so good. And then when I went back and watched Sphere, even though I liked it as a kid and I liked it as an adult, it was disappointing after reading the book. Oh, interesting. This is getting interesting. Shark tracking apps. So you can actually track them. They're not hiding that info from us, probably because I think we can't figure it out. Oh, that's interesting. Yes, let's do a hexpedition. Crypto Heartbeat and I have talked about that. We're like, why not? If Pulse, let's say, no, let's not say if. When Pulse moons, we have this extra money, why not fund our own expeditions? Because a lot of this stuff, a lot of research is funded by corporations, or organizations that have very specific interest in hiding information, suppressing information, or the certain biases coming into it. What about us who genuinely, for the sake of science, want to discover and explore? What if we're the ones funding it? Or are we all of a sudden going to end up being found Clinton style, if you know what I mean? I don't know. It'd be interesting though. So it's exactly how do you feel about CERN? What do you feel about CERN? And I'm probably going to log off in a few. I'm getting tired. It's hitting me now. We're almost 2 hours in. Insidious Tomas, I know you said you had a long explanation you were typing out. So I don't want to miss that, but I think I'm going to log off shortly. So if you are typing, if you didn't start doing it, then no pressure. But if you did start, I don't want to miss what you write or what you're going to write. So either drop it into like the comments, not the live chat comments, the actual comments on the video page, or DM it to me. Because I'm curious to hear your explanation. Oh, that CERN is a disinformation tool. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it's another distraction. They want us looking at CERN so they can do other stuff. Maybe it's like what's happening in the world, everything that happened this week. You know, the CERN was the distraction or CERN was the symbolic kickoff to it. But I definitely think the Georgia Guidestones explosion was a symbolic kickoff to what they're doing. Okay, next Saturday. Gotcha. Thank you. Thank you for still being willing to share that with us because I'm curious about your thoughts on the Mandela effect. So Hexagon higher learning schools and expeditions. Can you imagine if we were funding our own education and expectations where that can go? That would be cool. Oh my gosh. That would be wild. All right, guys. So I am gonna log off shortly. But thank you for sticking with me tonight and for discussing this craziness that's going on in the world and CERN and all that jazz. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your weekend or rest of your Sunday to my friend in Thailand. So yeah, have a good night, guys. Feel free to reach out to me. You have my socials. I'm sorry if I'm slow. I definitely am slow at responding. You should see my amount of unanswered text and phone calls in my phone. But I do appreciate and I do eventually get to everything that you guys send. So thank you so much. And thank you for all the love and support. I really appreciate it. I jumped up in subscribers this week. So thank you all. Welcome to anybody that's new. And I'm going to catch up with this live chat before I go. They're like, look, we can only do this with CERN. Meanwhile, top secret stuff is mind blowing. Exactly. What they're showing us is just like, I do believe that they're showing us something so little because they're doing something so much bigger. So they're only like, let's say NASA, they're only pretending they went to the moon because they're hiding everything bigger that they're doing. I think definitely that there's a lot of disinformation going on. So thank you guys for being here tonight. It was nice seeing you all. Thank you guys for bearing with me. And I hope you have a good night and the rest of your day and the rest of your weekend. So, all righty. Have a good night. Bye, guys. Thank you. I am like, was that broccoli? Very healthy. Oh, thank you. I do like my healthy, clean stuff. See you. Nice seeing you. Bye, guys. Have a good night. Bye. Oh, wait. Try and click the ending broadcast, and maybe I'll be more in focus next week. There we go. All right. Bye.